As we're waiting to get started, for those of you that are on, I'm gonna take the opportunity to ask a favor. We post these every week on our YouTube channel and the podcast channel that we have for the Live from Bitcoin Beach. So in order to get picked up by the algorithms, if you guys could do me a big favor and just review us, specifically if you have an iPhone and you can review us on Apple Podcasts, that helps a lot. And then also make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for all the new reviews we get this week, we're going to donate 100,000 sats to Bitcoin Akasi. And for every new subscriber on the YouTube channel, we're going to give them 10,000 sats for the project that Hermann will tell us about. So if you guys could do that, it's a big help. Big help to us, big help to Bitcoin Akasi, and a big help in getting the word out about circular Bitcoin economies. All right, well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a smaller audience joining us live this week, just because we're doing it much earlier than normal, and that's so that Hermann doesn't have to. Hey, Roman, can you mute your microphone, Roman?
Yes.
Can you mute your microphone? You got a lot of back noise there. We're doing it a little bit earlier, well, a lot earlier than normal, because it would have been like 3 in the morning for Hermann, and so we might have less people listening live, but that's why we record these and we post them so everybody can keep abreast of all the cool things that are happening. So Bitcoin Akasi was one of the first Bitcoin circular economies to kind of spring up after in the model of Bitcoin Beach. I actually heard Hermann on, I think it was a Twitter Spaces, I believe, talking about how he wanted to adapt an ongoing community project, the Surfer Kids, that they had going in South Africa that he'd been involved in for about 10 years, that they wanted to put that on a Bitcoin standard and kind of follow some of the things that have happened in Bitcoin Beach, obviously adapted for the local needs. And so it's been such an honor to become friends with Hermann. I've been able to spend some time with him, stay at his house, and see the project and see all the other projects in Africa that they are inspiring. He has actually partnered with us to help doing grants to other circular Bitcoin economies in Africa and kind of vet them and kind of walk alongside them and make sure that they're using the funds for what they're given for, but also just encourage them, because it's a grind and a lot of hard work. And so it's been amazing to just see his heart, to see the way he's respected in the community there in Mosul Bay. This last year, they actually put on a Bitcoin conference, which, if anybody's involved with in a conference before, knows what a huge task that is. I think it was more than he he probably knew going into it, but I heard it was an amazing conference, and I believe they're going to do it again this year. So he has lots of exciting things that they're doing. I want him to speak specifically about what they've done with the homes in the community, how they've painted them, and the people are receiving sats every month. And when I say homes, these are very simple lamina shacks, most of them dirt floors, and people kind of struggling. And it's been amazing to see just the vibrancy that it's brought to the community as they start to move to a Bitcoin standard. So Hermann, I don't want to give it all away. It's going to be much better coming from you. So please come on up and give us the story of how Bitcoin Akasi started, and then share with us all the different initiatives that you guys have going on now. And I don't know if Latundo is going to be able to join. I know he's in Oslo, I believe, right now. But if he's able to join us, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, Lutanda is in Oslo. He's at the Freedom Forum. So he might be able to hop on. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, just thank you very much for having me on the spaces. it's yeah, I mean it's been an interesting few years, and I've really enjoyed spending time in Alzante and getting to know you guys too, and it's really been an inspiration for us in what we do, what started in Alzante. There's a lot of things that came before the Bitcoin Ekasi project. You know, there, as you mentioned, there's a pre-existing project that predates the Ekasi project by more than a decade. But it really I wouldn't have thought about implementing a Bitcoin standard onto a social sort of social development initiative if it wasn't for the example that I saw um, in Alzante. And I mean, obviously, for the first little while, I was just following what you were doing online, and then was eventually able to visit with the Adopting Bitcoin conference in I think that was in 2022. So yeah, it's just very inspirational what's happened in El Salvador. But yeah, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, we have a social development initiative whereby we have children who attend a daily program. It's now more than one program, but it always used to be just one. It was a surf program. We still operate that one, and basically the kids come on a daily basis and we teach them surfing. Surfing is an interesting sport. It's pretty difficult to learn. It's quite a steep learning curve. So um, I always felt that surfing was a good way to kind of teach kids about proof of work, to put it in Bitcoin terms. And that's been running since 2010. And so basically, after about a decade of doing that, in 2021, we essentially basically just started paying salaries in Bitcoin rather than fiat, and onboarded shops in the community to start accepting Bitcoin as payments, so that the coaches spending their salaries can spend it without converting to fiat. And the sort of the inspiration for this was a podcast that I heard. It was I think it was the What Bitcoin Did podcast. That was in late 2019. That's when I first heard about the Bitcoin Beach project. And it was at a time that you guys were still using Wallet of Satoshi for most of what you were doing, and it was kind of sort of early days, but there was Lightning, and you were using Lightning, and it was working really well. And there was a lot of excitement, but not many people knew about the Bitcoin Beach project. And I heard this podcast, and it was with Peter McCormack, and he himself was even a little skeptical, if I remember correctly. But he went out there and he went to visit the project, and that kind of that was kind of the spark. What it gave me this idea that, well, if somebody else could do this, and I think one of the first things that grabbed my attention was how you were paying kids to, well, not kids, but youngsters to clean up one of the local rivers, and how you were paying them in sats to do that, and then they were spending those sats at the local shops. And I thought to myself, well, this is really something that we could do too. And I've been wanting to do something to help promote Bitcoin. So this seemed perfect. I'd been obsessed with Bitcoin for a long time, but I wasn't really contributing anything to the wider adoption. So this to me felt like it just felt like I had to do this, because this is the one thing I could do to really help push the needle on Bitcoin adoption. So that's it in a nutshell, sort of. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff that we're busy with today. I mean, it's been towards in August it'll be 3 years that we've been sort of operating on a Bitcoin standard with the Surfer Kids. Bitcoin Ekasi is basically just an extension of the Surfer Kids, in a way. And so it's essentially the Surfer Kids organization that was flipped onto a Bitcoin standard, and that's what we call Bitcoin Ekasi. And so after 3 years, there's quite a few things that we're busy with, and the one thing that, Mike, that you mentioned in the intro is the shacks that we paint. And I very clearly remember that the thing that actually gave me the inspiration to do that was because I realized that one of the things, at least from my perspective, and maybe you can sort of elaborate a little on this, but what seemed to really give Bitcoin Beach a lot of momentum in the beginning was with the COVID lockdowns. You had funds with which to help the community, and there were some shops accepting Sats as payment, but then getting those Sats out to the community, in a way, the COVID situation kind of helped with that, because it gave you a reason and it gave you a means to get Sats out into the community. And I was thinking of how I could replicate that and how I could do that in our context. And this was post COVID lockdown, so we didn't have that reason to do it, but we came up with this idea to recruit people who were prepared to have their shacks painted. And we would paint these shacks with the logos of Bitcoin companies and other organizations in the Bitcoin space. And by doing so, we would attract a lot of attention on social media, because this was something that was really quite curious. But at the same time, we could use that as a reason to give the people who live in those shacks satoshis to spend in the township economy. So they can either save those sats or they can spend it. But regardless, they get at the moment it's 6,000 sats per week. We also don't denominate that in fiat; we denominate that in sats. So regardless of what happens with the price, they get 6,000 sats a week. And this is very educational too, because it kind of puts this person in a situation where they have to ask, what are sats? They're not looking at fiat values; they're looking at sat values, and that sort of kind of forces the question: and well, what is this stuff? Um, and so that's a great way to get sats into the local economy and get it circulating, because that's really what you want, building a circular economy. It's important to have places to spend sats, but it's more important to have people who are willing to spend those sats and who have the means to spend those sats. So one of the most important things that we try and do is to try and find responsible ways to get sats into the local community. And so the salaries that we pay for the people who run the projects that we operate, those salaries are one way of doing that. But then the shacks that we paint, that's just another way that we have of doing that, which is to get sats into the local economy and to circulate that. So I don't know if you
Just
want to jump in and maybe elaborate on those two things.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that you're like trading value for value. That's been, that's one of the most challenging things anytime you're doing any type of economic or community development work, is trying to get resources into people's hands, but not just giving it to them. Because what they've found is projects that just give people stuff often actually create more problems than the good that they do. And you can create dependency. A lot of times people don't value things that they get for free, and so there's all these second and third order impacts if you just give things away for free. Now, as Herman had mentioned, there's times where you can do that, in crisis times, if there's some type of tragedy or something like that. Obviously, you just need to come in and help the people. And so that's why during COVID, we felt good about giving stipends to the whole community of El Zonte during that time, because people weren't allowed to work. They weren't allowed to leave their houses. We weren't de-incentivizing work. We were just helping people to survive. But I love how you found this way of them trading value. They are giving, access to their real estate to help promote different projects or Bitcoin companies in the space. And it also makes them feel like their house is more valuable. When I say house, these are very simple dwellings that we would refer to as shacks, or that we'd use maybe to put garden tools or something in, but these are these people's homes. But I think the fact that they become these billboards that are earning them money helps them become more dignified dwellings. It actually helps them invest more in maintaining and upgrading them, and it makes them feel proud that they have real estate. And so I love that you guys have done that. It's actually also transformed that part of the township to become one of the most vibrant parts of the township. It's actually, I believe, if I'm not wrong, one of the poorest parts. It's the part with the least nice houses, but it's become this kind of bright, cheerful place, and people are actually earning sats, on a daily or weekly basis. And I love the fact that you guys are denominating in sats, because that helps them understand that over the long term, Bitcoin is moving up in value against the Rand. It helps them think in sats when they're earning sats and then spending sats at the stores. It helps them kind of move on to that Bitcoin standard. And, obviously that takes some time and some education, but I love the fact that you guys have committed to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the it was quite a I mean, first of all, I think that the one thing that's worth saying is, that value for value aspect in a relationship where you're trying to help people it's incredibly important. And I operating and running this non-profit charity organization since 2010, there were many times during that 10 years that I was questioning myself as to why am I doing this, because at many times it felt kind of pointless. But in retrospect, I understand that that's what I had to learn. I had to because it's a really difficult line to walk. It's a very, very fine balance between helping someone and creating a relationship of dependency. And if you're helping people, or if you're trying to help people by just giving stuff away, you can often make the situation worse than what it was, because you're creating that relationship of dependency. Um, and so it's a very fine line. And I think having operated this nonprofit is that's basically what it came down to, is just to learn how to navigate that. And I'm very grateful for having spent that time doing that, because now it's a lot easier to sort of navigate doing this, because yes, you're putting money into the hands of people who have very little. And so one has to be very careful about how you navigate that, so as to help people and not to actually make things worse. And then just the second thing, with denominating things in sats, it took quite a lot of consideration over quite a long period of time for us to make that move. But having done that, I'm quite happy we did. And we don't denominate critical parts of the operation like salaries in sats, because obviously, volatility is a thing. Um, and a lot of the Lightning wallets today are so good, and they're so smooth, and they work so well. And you have fiat values for all the currencies imaginable, that what we found was oftentimes people would actually forget that they're not actually sending and receiving units of fiat value. It's just that the wallet gives them a value in fiat to help them understand how much value they're exchanging. But really, the thing that's being exchanged is Bitcoin. But people forget that because they just constantly see fiat values. And so we've actually got two or three. I think it's three different things where we denominate value in sats. And so the painted shacks is the one where we paint these people's houses. The other thing where we denominate in sats, and this has also been quite interesting, is we have a little shop where we sell secondhand clothes into the community. So we'll get the clothes donated, and then we'll sell it for very, very little. So essentially, we're giving the clothes away for free. The prices that people pay are quite low, but then we do ask them to change fiat coins into sats before they make the purchase. And the interesting thing about that is, because we've been denominating the prices in sats, our prices have actually been going down. So there's a couple of stickers on some of the items where they've crossed out 500 sats, and they've marked it down to 400 sats, and they've crossed that out and they marked it down to 300 sats. And that also sparks a very interesting conversation, because it's doing the opposite of what fiat is doing. And so with denominating things in sats, there's these little lessons that come with that, which is quite valuable. I see Roman has his hand up, so.
No, go ahead, go ahead. I have like a question for you, but go ahead.
No, I mean that's basically just what I wanted to say on those points. I think denominating things in sats actually teaches a valuable lesson, and I think one should try and do that where it's possible. You don't want to do it in places where people might feel like they get burned, but doing it in places where it's a non-critical component. I think it's quite a valuable thing to do.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Herman, I think for if there are people that they don't know where is Bitcoin Casio, what means Bitcoin Casio, where is the project. It would be nice if you can, explain us a little bit about like where is Mossel Bay. And another thing I think is really interesting is that you were doing already a social project there, but since you started to using Bitcoin, what have been changing? What you have been seeing in the community. That perspective is really interesting, because it's really similar with what we saw here in Sante.
Hi, I think I got kicked off there for a second. Not sure what happened. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey, Ramon, go ahead and mute yourself when you're not on because there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, cool. I think the question Roman asked was about where we are, which is a good question. I guess I should have started off with that. Sorry. um, and also the meaning behind the name, because I guess it is a slightly unusual name. But yeah, we're in South Africa, which is on the southern tip of the African continent. That's why we are 8 hours ahead of El Salvador. So it's about 25 minutes past 8 in the evening right now. Um, and we're in a town called Mossel Bay, which is a relatively big town. But we're on the outskirts of that town. So the surrounding town, or it's a small city, I guess, got a population of about 150,000 people. But then we are on a sort of on the outskirts of that city. There's this little community which is really quite separate from the rest of the city, um, and that's what we call the township. And so this city, Mossel Bay, it's pretty much as far south as you can go on the African continent. The nearest big city is Cape Town, which Cape Town is about 4 hours drive to the west, um, to the west of us. And so basically, and we're on the outskirts of the city in an area that's known in South Africa as a township. And that's basically what the name means. Bitcoin Ekasi. Ekasi is a slang reference to a township. And in South Africa, a township is an area where people who have very little money generally end up living. Um, there's oftentimes very high levels of poverty, very high levels of illiteracy, lots of crime, big problems with drugs, gangs, and these are the kind of areas that that I've been focused on, with the work that I've been doing for the past 10 years or so. And this is also where we then ended up creating the project Bitcoin Ekasi. Um, and Yeah, so that's really what it is. It's perhaps a slightly unusual place to see Bitcoin adoption, but then again, that goes back to the example that I saw in Bitcoin Beach when I first heard about the project, which is again why I say I don't think I would have thought about doing this if it wasn't for the Bitcoin Beach project, because that's also there I saw that Bitcoin has an application in these types of communities, and some of the changes that we've seen would probably sound quite familiar to people that are familiar with projects like Bitcoin Beach or other similar projects. But I've seen, I guess the most impactful thing has been to witness that, um, because we're paying salaries in Bitcoin, a lot of the coaches who we employ may never have thought about saving before, but then become interested in saving after using Bitcoin for several months. They're never really interested in saving when we first onboard them to earning their salaries in Bitcoin. But after some time, inevitably they start asking the question, well, this thing seems to be quite volatile, but it's often going in an upwards direction. So perhaps this is an opportunity that I can use to my benefit. And so slowly but surely they do become interested in saving. And some of the coaches that have been working for us, Lutando is a great example. He's been with the project for since the beginning, really. Since we started the Ekasi project, at least. He started working for the Surfy Kids in 2019. And so when we started Bitcoin Ekasi in 2021, he was one of the first coaches that started earning his salary in sats. And, he's been stacking sats throughout the entire bear market. And to have seen the impact that's had on his life, you know, it's a little unfortunate he can't tell that story himself, but um, he has spoken about that before, and he's probably going to end up speaking about that at the Freedom Forum in Oslo this week. It's really quite impactful to see.
Herman, just one thing I think for people to mention to people that don't know. So Rotundo, somebody who had never left South Africa before, probably never even out of the region of where the Mosel Bay, I'm guessing, and now has had the opportunity to travel to a number of different conferences. He was a speaker last year in Switzerland um, at the what, I'm blanking on the name of the conf. What was the conference there? The Plan B
Yeah, the Plan B Forum, Lugano.
Lugano, yeah. Um, and so it was so amazing for me to have met him in South Africa, there in the township, and then seeing him on stage in Switzerland speaking to this international audience. Now he's in Oslo speaking at the Freedom Forum. Just the growth in him personally, kind of becoming this real leader in the community, and you can see just the confidence has changed in him and his sense that he's going to have an impact on his community and his country.
Yeah, and I mean, I really love the way that he has also. I mean, because I knew Lutando pre Bitcoin Ekasi. Like as I mentioned, he started working for the Surfer Kids in 2019. So he spent a good 2 years with the project before we started Bitcoin Ekasi. So I knew him pre Bitcoin Ekasi and then throughout the entire implementation of the Ekasi project. And it's just been really heartwarming for me to see how, the way he talks about his kids have also changed. He never used to, for example, mention any plans that he had for his kids, and now these days he's talking about plans that he has for his kids, how he would like to see them go get an education, or go do things one day. And I think it's it comes back to the hope that people gain when perhaps they have been interested and able to save and accumulate what they earn for the future, but have never really seen that that's going to have much of an impact on the future. But then if you have this thing that really does seem to grow in value over time, it gives one this hope that, hey, look, I might actually be able to save up enough so that it does turn into a meaningful amount one day. And that kind of translates into having dreams and ideas for the next generation. And so when he talks about his kids and the plans that he has, he's got young kids, similar to myself. Um, when he talks about what he would like to see his kids do one day, and this is new. I never used to hear him say these things when we first started working together. When I hear him say these things, this is really what it's all about for me.
No, that is so awesome. Maybe share a little bit about the different circular Bitcoin economies that are springing up all over the world. They have, they start in different ways. They have different focuses. Some of them try to onboard a ton of just businesses and have that be the driver. I know you guys have kind of done the reverse and tried to be very methodical as you've onboarded the businesses to make sure they have enough Bitcoin being spent that they get excited about and they keep using it. And I think because of this, a lot of the businesses there have actually been able to accumulate a significant amount of Bitcoin throughout the bear market and are now reinvesting that in the community. So maybe share a little bit about your philosophy on that and how you've seen that work out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's been really interesting for me. When we, we started off in August 2021, and we kind of stayed under the radar for the first 3 to 4 months on purpose. So we had a small amount of Bitcoin um, to start off with that someone had donated to us, um, and this was enough to sustain a part of Lutando's salary in Bitcoin for a couple of months, and he onboarded the first shop, and it was kind of just this one coach spending a small part of his salary in Sats at this one shop for a couple of months just to see how things go, and then when we started posting about it on Twitter, things got it got quite a bit of attention within a short space of time, which was great because then, well, there were lots of scammers crawling out of the woodwork too, but it was great because people started reaching out to us, and people started realizing, well, maybe I could do this in my neighborhood too. And one of the first projects that really got a lot of traction, which is nearby, is in a place called Bitcoin Witsand, and this is in a very small town. It's about an hour and a half drive away from where we are, and it's fascinating because they came at this from a completely different angle. So whereas in our situation we really had to solve the spending side of the equation and figure out a way to get sats into the community. Um, and onboarding shops wasn't actually a big deal because once we had the sats that people were earning, they would find places to spend it. Um, the Bitcoin Vitsan came at it from a different angle. In our case, we're dealing with a very poor community. It's not the kind of place where visitors or tourists would necessarily want to go on their own. In fact, people are advised to stay away from these areas, even local South Africans. If you don't live there, you don't go there. Um, that type of place. That's where we operate. So we really could not rely on people visiting from the outside or relocating there to come and spend sats. Whereas Bitcoin Witsand is located in a very nice seaside holiday village, very, very popular with holidaymakers. The town has a permanent population of only 500 people, but over the holidays, it grows to about, you know, over 2,000 people, so maybe more. Um, so they were much more focused on onboarding the merchant side and educating the merchants, and in doing so, they were actually attracting people who had already had access to Bitcoin on their own to come and spend it in Witsand or to move there. Or so it's very interesting that the first project that we really connected with that started doing interesting things in the nearby vicinity really came from almost a completely opposite angle. Um, that was fascinating, and Bitcoin Witsand has really made incredible progress. Is definitely one of the most impressive examples of a circular economy project with a very, very solid base. Also, highly focused, like, you kind of want to say laser focused because they have this very, very small community. Um, like I said, it's only 500 permanent residents, and so they've actually, you know, the developer behind BTC Map, Nathan Day, was at a conference not so long ago where he was on stage and he said that Bitcoin Witsand had the highest concentration of merchants accepting Bitcoin. I mean, I think they've onboarded more than half of the town's businesses and people to using Bitcoin. And for a country where Bitcoin is still relatively, it's the adoption is it's not that high. To have more than 50% of people in a single area using Bitcoin is quite an incredible achievement. But it's because it's so small and because they could be so laser focused, and this is really one of the things that I've been reiterating to other projects, because that's also helped in our case, is not to spread the net too wide, especially when you're starting off, is to try and focus and be hyper focused on a local area. So, yeah, Bitcoin Witsand. I see.
this one of the people in the audience is Bitcoin Loxion. They're in Cape Town. They started a little more recently, but also doing really interesting things there. Similar to ourselves, they are also based in a township. There's also Simply So is listening. Simply So is also a project that's nearby. They're in one of the adjacent towns to Mossel Bay. They've onboarded a few people onto using Bitcoin. They support mothers. So yeah, it's just been heartwarming to see people trying to implement this sort of thing.
So maybe those folks can raise their hands. I'll invite them up if they just want to share just for a second about how they've been impacted by Bitcoin Akasi. But while we're waiting for that, Herman, if you could share a little bit about the education center that you guys have now, and then I know there was a movie. I probably butcher the pronouncing, but I think it's Lekker Feeling. I know that means well, you can explain what it means, but and that you guys were from that raised some funds to redo the surf center on the beach and building a super sweet skate park. So maybe let people know where they can find out about that. And then finally, of course, the bigger dream, as we've been talking about and working with, to build the center in the community there.
Yeah, absolutely. When so I guess I guess I'll start with what's happening at the moment. About a year ago, we had a lady who visited us by the name of Aubrey, and she asked if she could film the project. She wasn't sure what she was going to do with the footage, but a couple of months after getting back to the States, she actually ended up messaging me and said, well, we produced this little mini documentary. We'd like to put it online and maybe we can have a fundraiser. And that's what turned into Lekker Feeling. Lekker Feeling is lekker is basically just it's a word that can be applied in almost any situation, but essentially it means sort of tasty. It's something that you would often use to describe food, but you can use it to describe basically anything else. And so this is with reference to the feeling you get from riding waves when you surf. And so it was a very successful little 10-minute documentary. We had a great fundraiser off the back of that, and with those funds, we've been renovating the building that we've been using to operate the kids surfing program. And we've been in this building since 2015. Have never really done any major work on the building, so it was the first time it was renovated, which is great. Following that, Block, which is Jack Dorsey's umbrella company, came on board and helped us build a skate park, which we just finished. There's some photos and stuff on our Twitter profile. If you scroll through there, we'll have an opening day on the 20th of July. We'll have some pro skaters coming in and showing what they could do on this new park. It's really a world-class facility, which is built by one of South Africa's best skateboarders, and yeah, and so I guess the education center, when we first started the project, right at the beginning, when we first started implementing, this Bitcoin strategy of getting people to paying salaries in Bitcoin and getting shops to accept Bitcoin as payment, straight off the bat, almost immediately, it became very clear that we would have to have a location up in the community. We had the building down at the beach, but it's too far. It's very difficult to get community members. I mean, it's only about 1 kilometer. That's why the kids can walk up and down to come surfing, but it's too far to get shop owners to walk down to ask a question if they have a problem with their wallet, for example. And so we realized that we'd have to do something in the community. And so we've been operating from a temporary location. We rent a little small house. We've been using that as an education center. We do all kinds of things there. We run daily Bitcoin diploma classes, which is the diploma developed by Mi Primer Bitcoin, also from El Salvador. So we do all kinds of things there, but it's always been a temporary solution. And so this year, our major aim is to try and build something permanent. So we actually just today submitted a proposal to the local government. We're applying for a piece of land that's right in the middle of the township, and so there's information on that on our Twitter profile where you can go and look at what the plans are. We've got some concept drawings that's been drawn up by a local architect. We have some preliminary plans. And yeah, if we get positive feedback from the municipality, from the local government, which I believe we will, we're hoping to start construction in early 2025. And that will really be the anchor for the project going forward.
And I believe you guys are shooting to raise, was it 6 Bitcoin for the project?
Yeah, we're hoping to raise the equivalent of what was the block reward pre-halving, so 6.25 Bitcoin. That depending on what happens with the price, that should be enough to complete the initial phases of the project.
Awesome. And you guys already have made some progress on that. And so if there's folks out there that definitely encourage you guys to donate to that campaign. If there's companies or people that have been in the space for a while and are sitting on some Bitcoin that they want to put to good use, I know that they have some. I think if you donate a Bitcoin, they'll donate one of the walls to you, or I'll let Herman, in case I'm butchering the campaign, clarify that.
Yeah, I mean we're basically selling wall space, so we want to encourage people to put their, I'm doing air quotes when I say put their name on the building. It doesn't have to be your name. It could be something else. It could be a Bitcoin. It could be an appropriate Bitcoin meme, or it could be something else. It could be, we could design something, or it could be a person's name or a company's name. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning that if you do go and look at the photographs of what we have planned and the concept drawings, it's an incredible location. It's got 180-degree sea view. It's up on a hill, overlooks the ocean. It's got an incredible view. So I really think it has the potential to turn into a great venue, and we would eventually want to invite people there to record podcasts there, or use it as a venue, not only for our purposes, but to invite people from outside, and in that way also foster Bitcoin adoption in the local community. But yeah, have a look on our Twitter profile. It's the pinned tweet right at the top. It's got all the details there.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I think it's time to opening for questions. And just remembering to everyone that the questions should be related to Bitcoin Ekasi and question for them. If there are questions relating to also Bitcoin circular economies and everything. There is also we're launching in the grants for Bitcoin circular economies. There is a page on Twitter, the profile, the Bitcoin Circle Economies Federation. You can reach out and have information there. So let's make this question related to Bitcoin Ekasi.
Herman, I'll let you, or Herman, Roman, I'll let you handle the question part. So you go ahead and pull people up.
Okay. If you guys have any question for Herman and Bitcoin Ekasi, you can request to speak and you can do your question. We also see we have Maya here. She's running for president for Suriname. If we can bring her and maybe explain us a little bit about like really quickly what's happening in Suriname, and maybe we can planning to do a space with just related to Bitcoin Suriname.
And we'll be releasing Saturday a podcast that I did with her while she was here in El Salvador. So you'll be able to find that on Saturday.
Hi everyone. Hi Herman. Hey guys. Hey Herman. Great to speak to you guys again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great.
Hi,
Yeah,
Maya.
nice to speak to you guys. Yeah, so we're right now setting up our own Bitcoin education center here too. So we just got the signage and everything designed, and we're working with Meet Premier to get the diploma up and running here. We found a couple of teachers, so we're still early stages. But very inspired by what you're doing, Herman, with Ekasi. It's definitely inspiring for us to get the same running on the ground here. And we've got a lot of people coming to the meetups recently. We have more than 100 people attending, and everybody wants, to be educated to learn more about Bitcoin. So progress has been great here. And like, I think one of the main questions we have for you, because for us, it's a bit different. We have a soccer academy with about 800 families that we're working with. They're adopting Bitcoin. They recently launched a federation. Um, how do you, like, how do you engage them, like, engage people more, and how do you engage, like, get more volunteers to kind of help with the project? Because I think that's where we're still a little bit struggling at this stage, and also on the funding, securing funding for things like the education center itself. A lot of it is self-funded right now, so I'm funding out of pocket. Kane, we have a couple of Bitcoiners moving here. They're helping fund, and we have our guys are running and a BTC Pay server page, but I don't know. Maybe we're not active enough on social, so that's my main question for you.
Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate question. But first of all, I just wanted to say I spent some. I was in Arnhem recently for the Adopting Bitcoin Arnhem conference. It is a 10-year anniversary of Arnhemstad, which is a very, very early iteration of the idea to establish a Bitcoin circular economy. They started in 2014 to onboard shops in Arnhem. It's about an hour and a half outside Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And they did a conference recently to do the 10-year anniversary. And I was not aware, I was not fully aware of the link between the Netherlands and Suriname. And I spoke with a person there. His name is Ralph. You probably know him, and we had an in-depth conversation about what you guys are doing, and what the plans are, and it's super inspiring. Yeah, I was superficially aware of what you're trying to do, but having had a conversation with him quite in depth, we went for about a 3 hour walk one day, post conference, and had a great conversation about it. So yeah, very cool what you're doing. I think yeah, with regards to the question on funding, to be honest, I don't know. I feel like in many ways we were quite fortunate. We just connected with the right people at the right time. But I guess the only thing that I could say is, at the end of the day, it comes down to proof of work. And if you keep building, eventually, you should be able to connect with the right person. And if you do connect to the right person and you have that proof of work, then that's ultimately what get people to support you, I think. And that's one of the things that really helped us, is that we had the track record. We were not a new project. We were an established project who was simply converting to a Bitcoin standard rather than to a fiat, using fiat. But we had that track record, and so I guess that's not an easy answer. But that really helped us. Other than that, I guess with the funding thing, I know it can be expensive going to conferences, but that really helped too, because that's where you really meet a lot of people all at the same time in one place. And some of those conversations you have at conferences, even if it's only a 2 or a 3 minute or a 5 minute conversation, those can be really valuable. You can sometimes get more done in a 5 minute conversation. But I'm guessing you know all these things. So, but I mean, from my side, I'll definitely keep talking about what you guys are doing over there, because yeah, having had that conversation with Ralph, it's truly inspiring to hear what you're trying to do. It's not an easy task you set for yourself, and I've got a lot of respect for what you're trying to do. So I'll definitely keep talking about it, and perhaps if enough other people do that too, then that could help. So yeah.
Maya, let's connecting one of these days, and we can talk, and we can set up also like on a whole space for you in Suriname. Will be nice. We can do
Ramon,
that.
we do. That is on my list of things. We need to have a call with them about the program. They have a proposal for us. So yeah, Maya, we haven't forgotten about that. It's just been busy here, so we'll follow up with you on that.
Great, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. We'll just continue soldiering on here, doing proof of work, and all the help that we can get from the community is always appreciated. As you all know, it is always an uphill struggle, but definitely worth it in the end. So
And the
Perfect.
yeah,
the
we'd love to have
podcast
you here.
the podcast is dropping Saturday. So yeah, so we'll hopefully get some more excitement behind things once that gets released.
Awesome, nice, great. We also have our own conference here in the first week of November. There's a team organizing it that we met in El Salvador too. So they've been a great help too with that. So before adopting Bitcoin, if anyone wants to stop by in November, you're all welcome to join here. We'd love to have you.
Perfect. Thank you, Maya. And
Thank,
Ojita,
thank.
can you make your question, La Hojita?
Yeah, thank you, Roman. I'm gonna get down with the hand. So first, congratulations, Bitcoin Ekasi, or as I used to say, congrats, not congrats, but congrats for the whole process you've been unfolding and promoting. Here, yeah, we're in El Salvador. I'm mostly active inside Bitcoineros del Occidente, which are Westerners, Bitcoiners here in El Salvador, and we also are like cooking a circular economy project in a western part, because up to now the three, if we include Isla La Piraya, the three with Alzonte and Berlin are more at the central or eastern part of the country. And one aspect that struck me really is because I came a bit late into this space, is the part of fostering the fact that people are paid, like their wages are paid in satoshis. And I don't know if you could come back to that, like in a nutshell, explain how it was born, that process, and how it is funded also. Is it through donations? Is it through like an endogenous mechanism to get the funds, the satoshis? Because I consider it's a really a crucial point. Here in El Salvador, as you know, we have Bitcoin as a legal tender. At the same time, one of my wishes or our dreams is for, let's say, a part of the public servants in the country to have at least, I don't know, 30% of their wages to be paid in Bitcoin. And I hope the government will adopt that approach at some point. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question. I perhaps skimmed over that point a little too quick, but so I mean, we pay wages on a weekly basis. Every Monday, I sit down and I've been using the Blink Wallet batch pay feature to do wages for the past couple of weeks. But we've experimented with different ways of paying salaries in Sats over the years. This has been the best one so far. With regards to how we fund it. So again, the project is based on a non-profit organization which predates the Akasi project by more than a decade, and so it's always been a non-profit donation-based organization. So pre-Bitcoin Akasi, we were fundraising in fiat, and we use that to cover the costs of the program that we run. The majority of those costs are the salaries to the coaches who run the program, and those coaches basically work to teach the kids that we recruit from the township to teach them surfing. And so that model still stands today. We do fundraising as we did before, except we do that fundraising in Bitcoin. And we've obviously changed the avenues through which we do fundraising. Bitcoin has opened up a lot more avenues because it's a global money. But the basic mechanism is still the same. We're a donation-based nonprofit.
we do fundraising, and we use those funds to run a social development program. And ultimately, we do that because the children that we recruit, if it was a paid program, they would never participate. So we are offering a free service to the children. But again, this comes back to how you help people in a value for value model. We do require that the children work to earn their place to participate. It's not a free for all, and it's certainly not a handout. The children have to commit. Obviously, when they're really young, they can play around, they can fool around. But as the older they get, they do end up working to earn their spot in the program. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And Herman, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the shacks that you guys have that are painted, the people sponsor those, or in some way that funding is coming from the people whose logos are on the shacks. Am I correct?
Yes, in some cases. All the shacks that we paint, all the logos that we painted, there is a connection between the project and the organization or the company whose logo we painted. In some cases, that was a direct financial contribution. In other cases, it was for example, a material sponsorship. So we would get a batch of hardware wallets from Blockstream Jade, for example. And so it's not a financial sponsorship, but it's a material sponsorship that comes down to the same thing. But in some way or another, all those companies have made contributions, whether it's direct financial contributions or not, to the project.
So there's definitely unique ways like that, because fundraising is always the biggest challenge for any project, especially in the early days. And as Herman has talked about, as people see your proof of work and they get to know you, you do have access to the people that are willing to put more funds behind it. In the early days, it's going to be small amounts. But if you can do unique things, I'm not saying copy what they did exactly, but to find ways to offer value to people, and have it be something cool for the community also, like the way they've done with the painted shacks. I love that idea. It's very unique. It's very direct. It connects the people in the township to the funds that are coming in, but also just makes this great advertising and a visual when you see these pictures of these shacks right on this beautiful coastline, but they actually look pretty and colorful now because they're all painted.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. It really gives the place a bit of a vibe, lots of color. It does give people a sense of pride. And at the end of the day, it does attract attention. And I think that's one of the things that that one should also manage carefully. You don't want to attract too much attention, but then again, you do need to attract some attention. And that's not only attention from social media, but I'm also very much talking about attention within the community. You need to draw people's attention to the fact that you're doing something important, and to sort of prickle their curiosity, so they start asking questions and start talking to the shop owners that are accepting Bitcoin, and talk to the coaches. And so that it's really done that too. It's attracted quite a bit of attention within the local community. I think Bitcoin Loxion, Tulani is on the stage. And if you guys don't mind, it'd be great for her to give a little update.
Please.
I met her in person for the first time at the conference we did in January. And so they are actually, it's funny because when I met her for the first time, I asked her about the name Bitcoin Loxion. And she looked at me with a smile and she said, well, it means the same thing as Ikasi. And I I was not aware of it. But yes, Loxion is another name for a township similar to Ikasi. And so that's just a little funny story about the first time we met. But yeah, they are operating in a very, very similar environment as we are, except it's near Cape Town, whereas we're located outside Mossel Bay. But it's also a South African township. And other than the fact that their township is much bigger than the one that we operate in, those are very similar circumstances. So that's obviously something I'm very interested in. So maybe she could give us a small update on what they're doing and how it's going.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much, Herman. First of all, my name is Tulisa and I'm from Cape Town in a place called Khayelitsha. It's a quite big township, if I may say. Yeah, Luxin means ghetto, same as look Ekasi as well. So what we are doing in Bitcoin Luxin, we are driving Bitcoin education and the circular economy in Khayelitsha. But for now, we are actually running or operating in a place called Makaz. As I said before, Kailicha is very big and it has different sections in it. So at this point, you are still in a place called Makaza, where where we are doing workshops every Thursdays, and then each and every Thursday, and then every Saturdays we are doing meetups. Yeah.
It's amazing to see how these things are spreading, and that's why I love doing these spaces. I'm finding out about these new projects that are out there. That that's what I love, the decentralized model of circular Bitcoin economies. They just keep spreading and spreading. So that's awesome. I just followed you, and we'll follow your guys' updates. And if there's ways that we can kind of help support you guys along the way, definitely let us know.
And just want to add to that, I really like the projects that come up sort of unnoticed in a way. I mean that in the way that you kind of start noticing them after they've already started. And so I actually I was unaware of what Tulisa was doing in Kailicha until the second time we met. That's only really when I started realizing what they're busy with, and it's that kind of proof of work approach, where you build something first, even if it's really small. You build something first, and then you approach people and start talking about your idea, and it's those types of projects that really um, attract me to become more interested.
Just to add on that, we were also like inspired with what Bitcoinicus was doing. So we thought to ourselves, why not do the same thing that they are doing back home in Cali so that we can also be able to spread the education of Bitcoin and also be able to pay other shops in Bitcoin so that we can build a circular economy as well. So thank you very much, Bitcoinicus, for showing us that we can also do it in our community as well.
Yeah, I mean, really, you should be thanking Bitcoin Beach. We got the idea from them.
I just want to eat the bride next year when we come to visit you guys. Some good meat.
Yeah, man, you must come to the conference in January. We'll do it in January, and we'll have a we had a very very big braai after the conference this year,
We,
and we'll do it again next year.
we
Um,
will.
yeah, it's just a little unfortunate with the visa requirements um, for El Salvadorians. I was really surprised about that, to be honest with you.
No, I know. It would suck. Yeah, we couldn't send two of the two members from our team, but I'm gonna come next year, and we're gonna come to visit you, Bitcoin Luxon, too, to have a better understanding what you guys are doing there. So, Mike, we're here with 1 hour. What we want to do?
I think if there's no more pending questions, we do like to not let it go too much over. If there's anybody else we had upstage waiting, then go ahead and let them go. But otherwise, we will. I'll let Herman kind of close us out. Just one more time for you guys. Every week as we release these, one of the things we're going to be doing is we try to get the word out about circular Bitcoin economies and promote on the YouTube channel and the podcast station. Each week we're going to donate anybody who does a review of the podcast or subscribes to the YouTube channel. We're going to donate sats to the project of that week. So encourage you guys to take a second and do it. It just takes a second, and that helps us get the word out, but about circular Bitcoin economies, but it also helps us get them some funding directly. Armand, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, sure thing. yeah, I don't have too much else to say, but for those that are interested, maybe I'll just mention again the conference that we're doing in January. It'll be the second Adopting Bitcoin conference that we're doing. And yes, we are using the Adopting Bitcoin umbrella. So Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador was one of the first conferences I went to in 2022. And what I loved about the Adopting Bitcoin conference in El Salvador, I mean, that was my first conference. So I didn't really have anything else to compare it to. But having been to quite a few others since then, what I loved about that conference was everybody really seemed to be on the same level. I could approach anyone, I could talk to anyone, and everyone there was building. It was about building stuff, and not so much talk. I mean, obviously you talk a lot at the conference, but it was about it was about things being built on the ground. It's fantastic experience for me, and we decided to cooperate with the Adopting Bitcoin brand and do an Adopting Bitcoin conference in Cape Town. The Cape Town one was the second Adopting Bitcoin conference. So we'll be doing that again next year, again under the Adopting Bitcoin brand, cooperating with the guys from Galloway who put on the El Salvador conference. And that the one in Cape Town will be in January, and I hope to see you guys there. It's a very similar vibe to the vibe of the conference in El Salvador. It's just a bunch of ordinary people coming together, building with Bitcoin, and trying to see how we can spread the implementation and the adoption of Bitcoin to everyday people on the ground. So yeah, I hope to see you there. It's a fantastic experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Hermann, for your time. Make sure that you guys are following Bitcoin Akasi. Make sure that you're supporting them in their fundraising campaign to build this new center. Paco or Ramon, do we know who we have next week? Do we want to announce that right now?
I don't remember now, but we have here Lorena. But I don't remember who we will have next week.
Okay, well, we'll have somebody next week. It'll be
Yeah.
awesome. Make sure you guys join us. This is every Tuesday. We usually do it in the evenings, El Salvador time. We do have some flexibility on that to accommodate people that are located in different parts of the world. So definitely join us next Tuesday. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Bye bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.